Good evening. Thank you for attending our regular meeting, our board meeting. It's nice to have everyone here tonight. We started our meeting at 5:37 in executive session, and so we're still in session. We are going to now do our Pledge of Allegiance. If you can join me and stand and do a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we have a recommendation to approve our meeting agenda. I'll recognize Matt Keller for a purpose of a motion to approve our agenda.
I'll approve it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, the agenda is approved. Next, I will turn over to Dr. Howard to recognize our student state qualifiers and special recognitions.
Yes, thank you, President Ferguson. Board, tonight is a special evening. I'll reiterate what you shared. Thank you very much for being here. Parents, students, we're extremely proud of you. The thing that I'll call out to the board is this evening we have over 200 recognitions that involve 189 students, and there are 15 different groups that have met the state or state qualifier threshold. And one of the things that I love as a superintendent is that we have an awesome group of students we're recognizing this evening that have excelled in the academics, arts, and in athletics too. So we want to have well-rounded students here in Marysville, and I think you're seeing this evening. So without any further ado, I know we have principals, coaches, advisors here this evening, and I think first group up is our boys bowling state qualifier.
Hi, I'm Greg, the head coach of the bowling team. This is senior Kyle Teeters. This year has been an amazing year. Second year in a row we've made states. My statement for the year was to send our seniors out going to states, and that's what we have accomplished. He was a big part of it this year.
All right, we now have comp cheer up. Do we have a comp cheer coach here? All right, thank you for being here. It's really hard to coordinate this, guys, in the spring. We've got a lot of really, really busy student athletes and also coaches. Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Siobhan Cunningham. I'm the competition cheerleading coach. This past season, our game day competition team qualified for the OHSAA state finals round for the second year in a row in the Division I category. It's one of the largest categories in the state, and they took home top 5. They got 4th, which is a program record for us, so we're super proud of them.
Okay, we have mock trial on deck, so it might make sense for our advisor to come on up. And if you're here for mock trial and you're a student, come on over here to the side.
Okay, I'm Mr. Sundermeyer with the mock trial program. We've got members of our state qualifying. One of our 3 teams qualified to the state competition this year. Representing Team Watergate, we have 2 of our attorneys, Hillary and Kate. Congratulations, ladies, and to the entire team.
Okay, we now have DECA on deck, so if you're here for DECA or you're an advisor, come on over here to the side. Okay, we're now going to honor DECA that just competed in downtown Columbus at the state competition. They won many awards, came together as a team, and just cleaned house with awards. So let's give it up for DECA. Okay, we have swimming on deck.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Hello, I'm Coach Michael Wan. I'm here to honor the Marysville boys swim team that qualified for states. I have 3 of my 4 swimmers here. I have Carter Pancalo and Rylan Brown and Brady Cordania. They were, and the person I'm missing is Patrick Filbert. They were the 200 freestyle relay and 400 freestyle relay. They qualified for the state meet and they made prelims, and then they also made finals, and this is the first time in the history of Marysville swimming we've had someone make finals. And Brady Cordania also qualified in the 200 free and 500 free and swam personal best in his prelims. Congratulations.
All right, girls wrestling is on deck. Girls wrestling.
You can stand right there. Wait for them to get their picture taken. Bailey. Avery. My name is Sean Andrews. I just want to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to recognize our athletes. I'm the head coach of the girls wrestling program. We really have 2 groups being recognized tonight. Our girls were state dual runner-ups. They had a 17-1 dual meet record this year, so second best dual meet team in the state. And so we have a handful of those girls here today. And then we had 5 state qualifiers this year for the OHSA state tournament and finished 4th as a team. And we have Avery Riley and Macy Lee here tonight, who were 2 of our 5 state qualifiers. So thank you very much.
Okay, boys wrestling is up next.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm the boys coach, wrestling coach. Last week we just finished in this OHSA tournament alongside the girls. This year we also had 5 qualifiers and 1 state placer tonight. I asked them to introduce themselves, but they quickly shrugged it off. So thank you to the board. Thank you to Dr. Howard for having us. We have state qualifier Jack Williams and state qualifier and state placer Keegan Andrews.
Okay, we have choir up next. I don't know if we have any choir kids here or not. All right, before we transition to cross country, we do not have any choir students here, but they received straight ones across the board, and we're looking forward to states next month. So Coach Sundermeyer, cross country.
Okay, Coach Sundermeyer again. Cross country runners, we had 3 runners qualified to the state meet this fall. So after a 22-year drought, the Marysville Monarchs have been represented 7 of the last 9 years of Division I state championships. These are the ones you see running all over town all year. Weather like yesterday, weather like today, doesn't matter to them. They put in a lot of hard work, so we're excited to honor them tonight. So we've got Lila and Cameron. Okay, come on up. And Paxton also qualified to represent our boys team individually at the state championships in cross country. Thank you.
Okay, we now have indoor track. So you're back.
It's me again. Indoor track. Okay, we just a few weeks ago went up to the Spire Institute up in Geneva and competed at the Indoor State Track and Field Championships. It's a really exciting goal for our student athletes to earn a spot and qualify to that meet and compete against some of the best athletes in the country. So come on up here, and we've got our 4x800 relay qualified for the 7th consecutive year to the Indoor State Championships. We've got Kenzie, Lila, and Cameron here representing that group in the relay. We have Ava Schmutz here representing the pole vault squad. She qualified individually as a pole vaulter and placed 11th at the state championships with a PR. And then freshman Savannah Morse qualified in the high jump as well. They're really excited about weather like today's and the spring track season that's ahead of us. Congratulations.
All right, FFA is on deck, and Sherry Anderson.
Good evening, everybody. So we're here recognizing some of our state and national qualifying students. So we'll start with our state degrees. So we have 3 state degree winners. It's the highest degree that an FFA member can earn from the state of Ohio. It represents years of hard work and dedication, not only to their community and leadership development, but also through their industry development. We have students that are managing their own businesses, that are working for other enterprises here within the county. So from raising production goats to working on a production hog farm to working for diesel mechanic industry. So really kind of the whole facet. So that would be Graydon McCreary and Tristan Lenner and Maddie Works. And then, yes, so. The highest degree that can be earned is the American FFA degree. That is even above the state degree, so less than 2% of all FFA members nationwide will ever earn that. We have 2 this year. One of them were able to join us, which will be Austin Bennett. And then finally, Will Ramsey qualified for the state contest in beginning public speaking and represented Marysville very well, I believe placing 4th.
Okay, Christina Grady-Watts, would like to welcome her up here from ECHS. She's going to be doing a few more. Also wanted to recognize one of our football players, J.J. Henry, who was named 3rd team All-Ohio. Played both ways for the Monarchs this year, had a monster season, but was not able to be here tonight, I think, due to a work commitment. So let's give it up for J.J.
Good evening. I'm Christina Grady-Watts, the assistant principal at ECHS, and I want to start off by recognizing any students here from HOSA. HOSA is the student organization for our students interested in health professions. It's an international student organization focused on leadership, and we had 32 students moving on to the State Leadership Conference in April, taking place in Toledo. So is anybody here from HOSA? We have 32 of them. I am so glad you guys are here. Some huge stacks, so we'll give them to you tomorrow. You guys want to have congratulations. Next, I want to recognize our students that participate in BPA. So if you are one of those students, come on up. This is our Business Professionals of America student organization, and it focuses on students that are in IT or other business-related fields. And we had 16 state qualifiers, and then 2 students, Reagan Cook and Demir Maglov, that are going to nationals in May. So a super huge deal. So give it up for them. Congratulations. And then finally, I want to recognize somebody that is not in the room. This is actually a 2025 graduate. He's currently attending college in North Carolina. But he was a boys tennis state qualifier, 2nd team All-State, and that's Gianni Russo. So congratulations to him.
Thank you very much, students. Thank you, parents, for getting them here. And grandparents. Thank you. See you, Sean. Board, I also wanted to take the opportunity, this is always one of the favorites of any Board of Education meeting that we have, and it's the recognition of our Classified Employee of the Month. And this month, we have Denise Dunn. Denise is an employee of the Marysville Exempted Village School District. She works as a SAC employee at Mill Valley. She also works in food service as well, and I'd like to read her nomination. I am honored to nominate Denise Dunn for Employee of the Month in recognition of her exceptional dedication and leadership this past month at Mill Valley SAC program. Denise truly stepped up in multiple significant ways. She successfully ran the SAC site as a team leader, managed the kitchen in the role of kitchen manager, and is now actively training our new team leader to ensure a smooth transition. Taking on even one of these responsibilities would be impressive. Managing all three demonstrates her incredible work ethic, flexibility, and commitment to the success of the program. Denise is compassionate, hardworking, and a true go-getter. She consistently rises to the occasion and willingly takes charge when needed. Her leadership has provided stability and support to both staff and students during times of change. Most importantly, Denise genuinely cares about the Mill Valley students and their families. Her dedication goes beyond completing tasks. She invests her heart into the program and the people it serves. We are incredibly grateful to have Denise on our team and deeply appreciative of all she has done for the SAC program. She is truly deserving of this recognition. Thank you, Denise, for your outstanding contributions and continued commitment to excellence.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. And thank you, Denise, for your service to our district. Next is our public participation. I did not see any sign up, so we'll move on to our public hearing to discuss the reemployment of retired employees, Kevin Brandfast, teacher, and Don Burns, teacher. Dr. Howard?
Yes, Board, there is no action that's needed to be taken this evening, but in summary, I believe this to be a win-win for the school district in that we're able to retain the knowledge and experience of two outstanding educators. There's also a savings to the district by bringing them back. So everybody wins in this, and they're both outstanding educators.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. This completes the hearing for reemployment of retired employees. Next, we will recognize Chris Campbell, Director of Teaching and Learning, to provide a presentation on AI integration. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to give you guys an update on where we are with our AI implementation in the district. I'm going to just take you through a few slides here and talk a little bit about where we are and where we're going to go. So one of the things that we have learned and where we are right now currently as we go through this, as I said in November when I was here, we talked a little bit about these pilots we were starting. So we have had 2 pilots in 4 of our schools. We are using School AI and Power Buddy, which is a Power School product. We've been working with those 4 buildings as they implement and use AI for teaching and learning in their classrooms. The other thing that we did, and I think I mentioned this before too, is we used the Ohio Tech Cred grant, and we're able to train 15 of our instructional coaches and principals on AI implementation and prompting. That went really well. That was 3 different sessions we did with them, and it was free to the district. The grant was a $30,000 grant that we did receive, and we were able to implement that. And with future plans to do more of that as we move forward, as long as that tech grant is still available by the state of Ohio. The next piece of the work that we've really worked on for most of the year was our guardrail documentation that we've used. As we know, the state of Ohio is requiring school districts to have a policy in place around AI by July of 2026. And so what we decided we wanted to look at was really the guardrail aspect of that and how we can make sure our kids are safe, our teachers are using it effectively, and giving them some guidance on what the district believes it should look like. So we started with that with our steering committee, which we've had together since last school year. And then from that, we expanded it into a teacher committee. Teachers and admins were part of that. We invited them over our professional development days throughout the school year. We took their feedback, created some documents, looking at other documents around Central Ohio that school districts have used. And from there, we kind of crafted our own with their support and their help. We went back, refined them, brought them back to them, and went through that process. Currently, we met last Thursday with a group of stakeholders, families in the district, to kind of share those documents and give them an update on where we are in our process of AI integration into our schools. That went so well, we're going to have another one. We had a really nice turnout. There was a lot of discussion. We had a lot to get through. We didn't get through it all. And so I invited them back for another meeting in April. So really for us, when we think about where we're going to move forward, it's the evaluation time now. Well, I did send out surveys to students and staff. We did our grades 7 and above, a student survey around artificial intelligence in the classrooms. And then we did it for staff and teachers, admins, and we had that survey. We're taking those results, and we will be looking at those and evaluating those surveys and kind of getting a pulse of what the schools themselves, teachers, and what the students really feel about it, so we can guide our next steps and actions. We've also looked at some different AI tools because one thing we have done as we've gone through this process is we've learned a lot. We've learned that, maybe we need to be looking outside of what we started with, which was, implementing a product or a pilot, and looking more internally at what we can do to help and support as we get through this process, working with our staff and our teachers. We've learned that really education is going to be the most important part. Education for our staff is really important, and how it can be used. As I stood here before you in November and talked a lot about what we wanted to see with AI and how it could help our teachers be more effective, how it could help them differentiate their instruction. And really, so as we've gone through that, we know that we now have to make sure that we are educating our staff. So the last piece then becomes the district policy, which will be adopted based on the state of Ohio's recommendation, which we'll do in July. So that's kind of the next 3 things on our agenda for this year. As I said, the committee did some work. I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly because there's not a lot I can share with them other than giving you some one-page screenshots. And they're not finished because I do want that stakeholder committee to come back and give us our feedback. And so we're going to work with them to get more feedback on that. But basically, we started with some AI guardrails. I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. We used it, we created some expanded use examples, which we consider that to be our technical document around AI in our schools. And then we gave teachers a one-pager for a teacher-student use grade bands, and then a one-pager for a data and security one-pager. And then again, that feedback cycle has been really important to us. Whenever we create things, we bring it back to the team, we meet with them, and they give us their feedback on what we should do, and we implement that based on their information. So this is what a guardrail one-pager might look like. You can see it's broken down by level 0 to level 4 access in the classroom. This would change based on the teacher, what the teacher wanted for assignment. It would change on what maybe the class has. This could be a day-to-day type situation. It could be a project-to-project. It could be at the beginning of the period, you're at level 0. You may open that up to level 4 based off what the teacher. But it breaks it down to give the teacher some actual examples of what it might look like in a classroom of ELA, math, science, social studies, elementary, and then electives and our unified arts, okay? The next thing we did, this is our technical document. So if you really want to read the whole master plan, we have a technical document that lays out each of these levels for teacher use and student use, and it goes through each of these. So if a teacher really had questions, they could dive deeper into this to support them. So there's really not any confusion about what the expectations are from the district. And these are the documents that we're working with our stakeholder committee, which we hope to meet with them again in April to really get more feedback and see what we missed, because we are all going through this together for the first time, and so there's going to be information we want from them to help us guide these for our students and our teachers. But you can see here as you go through, there's a student and teacher example. All of it goes through so teachers have a better understanding of what they should be, how they should be handling each level of our level 0 through 4. The other piece we did was these use examples. So a teacher in each of the grade bands of K4, 5, 8, 9, 12, it'll give them actual examples, quick, one page that they can have on their desk. So if they're doing a level 0, what that might look like. So really trying to give as much clarity around the expectations as we move forward. And teachers liked these documents. They were very supportive of this in the committee. We have the same thing for student use, what it might look like for a student. And again, these all go from 0s to 4 as leveled access. And then finally, the other document we created was this data and security one-pager. We believe that was also important. Oops, didn't mean to go that way. We also feel that's that important so teachers kind of understand what we mean by data security in the district. So this was created to support that and help that. The next thing, like I said, we're kind of investigating tools through what might look like different, really free tools that will support teachers and support students in their learning. And what we've kind of looked at and landed on as being a Google district, we've looked at Gemini GEMS and Google Notebook LM, both tools that we feel are very controlled. I use the term walled garden a lot, and so these are things that will keep our data safe. It'll keep our students directed towards needs them to be directed. And so I know with the help of Tom Powers, our IT director, we've been looking into these tools, and we've had meetings with Google and our Google representatives to support what our needs are in the district and what that might look like and how they can help us. So just to give you an idea, what a GEM is, if you don't know what a GEM is, basically a GEM is a personalized assistant. In all actuality, I guess that's what I would call it. And then it's governed by the instructions that the user that creates it puts in there. And so then you also have it's enhanced by the knowledge that you give it, which could be documents, it could be slideshows, it could be videos, whatever you're putting in there. So it contains it inside of a walled garden. It could be a website or whatever you want to do, but it's in charge, or it's created by the person who creates it as actually telling it how to look for the information. And then finally, the nice thing about a GEM is that teachers can use this over and over again. So it's not just a one-time fit; it'll be used over and over again repeatedly as they use this in their classroom with students. Some of the examples we can use it for like a PSAT, ACT tutoring tool that will help a student who took the PSAT, what they might look like or what they might need to study for the ACT. The other things we've talked about at the elementary level is you can create characters out of books and it'll talk like the characters, things like that help support teachers, but also make learning fun and interesting for kids and bring that literature to life. The other thing, I didn't turn that off. But the other thing we talked about was the Notebook LM. Notebook LM is a very, very confined walled garden approach to this. This is something great for teachers. We use it internally right now for a lot of our math frameworks. I stood up last year and we talked about the math framework. We use it for our literacy framework. These documents are put in there. Anything you put in there, that's all it's going to be looking at and using to give information back. Similar to the GEM in the sense that it's very controlled by what you're putting in it. We use these all the time. I use them for internal, like I said, internal documents. I can also see this being used in a classroom. If you're studying, it can create study guides for students. It'll help them. One of the examples, it'll do for you is it gives you an audio podcast. It'll create a video for you. I use the Notebook LM at the beginning of the school year to present to our staff, K-6 staff, about our math framework and how Ohio's plan for K-12 mathematics. And so we created a video and I put it at our convocation. It's like a 7-minute video. Those kind of things are able to be used, using a Notebook LM and can create these things for our teachers and our students. The great thing about Notebook, it continues to update too. They're adding features all the time. It's making slide decks now. So there's always an improvement process. As we first started it, I really thought it was cool that they had the video, and now they've moved that on. They have. You can create a quiz. It does slide or flashcards for you. Like I said, it does a slide deck, and then you can also train the podcast to talk to you in a certain way. You could have it do in a debate over 2 subjects or over 2 different pieces of the information you provided. It will give you exact information of where that is coming from. We talk a lot about the hallucinations that can happen with AI. And so when you use a Notebook LM, it'll give you a footnote of where it pulled that information from, so you can go back to the original document and make sure that it's answering those questions correctly for you. So finally, I just wanted to follow up with the timeline. We updated you guys in November of where we are. We started throughout this process. Really, at the beginning of the year, we decided we wanted to look and explore different tools, and we tasked our teachers with doing the same. As I said the last time, we are still completely locked down. The only things that students are allowed to use are the pilots. And I sent letters home. We did send letters home to families letting them know that they were going to be part of a pilot, so students would have access, if they were in those buildings, that they would have access to these AI tools in the classroom with their teachers. We are right now in March, where we had our first community stakeholders meeting. Like I said, that was last week. Our next meeting will be hopefully April. I've scheduled it already. And then we will be reviewing what the committee tells us so we can look at our documents. Obviously, we're going to have a board approval of the AI policy in June. And then next school year, we'll roll out our guardrails to students and staff. And then we're going to do professional learning for our staff around AI. And then really, open AI access is still blocked for students. So that's going to be, until we make a final decision, and we don't know. I can't answer the question right now if it'll be completely open next year. I don't know. My goal right now for the district is to really support our teachers and get them to have a background in how they can use it and how it can benefit them. If I can't get them to understand or feel that it's benefiting them, then there's really no reason for us to put it in the classrooms. I don't want it to be like we've talked before. It's not going to be the wild, wild west. That's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
You're good.
Well, Mr. Walker, thank you so much for putting that together and kind of showing it. I do have to applaud the organization, our kind of divisions, in thinking about this as what are the outcomes that we're seeking and what problems are we trying to address with AI, and not letting technology lead us down a path. So really commend the approach that you're taking. We are going to have to continue to explore the use of artificial intelligence in our day-to-day lives and our students' lives, whether it be in the classroom or as they step home and they're starting to use this. So really, I think what we need to do is really focus on why are we adopting this technology and what are we hoping for it to do for our students. This isn't about replacing the human component of education. As you roll this out and really focus on your teachers, I hope we're giving them capacity back to focus on that person-to-person communication, critical thinking, and what more they can do. Make them more efficient so we can get back to what matters. Our kids are using a lot of technology in the classrooms today. I know that's a concern of a lot of parents. It's something that we should be mindful of. So as we continue to look forward, I look forward to seeing the full proposal. If we're using AI to create more meaningful human interactions, and we're strengthening how students are thinking, and not just how fast they can produce an answer, then we're on the right path, and I commend you guys for what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Leanne?
I was just going to ask, so when you say walled garden, like, is our students' information out there training like the general AI model, or it's staying, you mean it's staying within our district?
It's staying within. So even if we were to use Gemini, a Google product, or even ChatGPT, when we sign up for these, we sign agreements with, Tom Powers does it, he takes care of it on his side, but we sign agreements, and even on the web page, it'll show you that Gemini does not use MEVSD data to train their models. It does the same thing with ChatGPT. It says the same thing. So if we go in those directions, or we went into to purchase something like a school AI product or anything like that, the same would be true. The models are not trained by anything we put in there. And we've kind of shifted a little bit, looking at more different data platforms that we could use, kind of keep the two separated a little bit, where we might look at a different product for our data for principals, for admins, for teachers in the classroom, where it houses all of our data that comes out of PowerSchool or any other product we might be using. And so that's even a different site from one of these AI generated, just like there's always been a lot of data. We used to use Tableau, things like that. And those are all obviously very secure too. And we sign agreements with them. And so they have to make sure that none of it's being used to train their models, which I understand that to be a very important, topic for everybody. And I agree with that. We want to make sure that our student data is secure, and everyone's data, the teacher's data as well.
Mr. Keller, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Campbell, if you would describe what's our philosophy behind embracing AI, if you can describe that in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
That's a good question. Our philosophy really right now is we want to make sure that we're keeping our students and our staff safe. We want to make sure we're investigating the tool in a proper manner, that when we do roll this out, it's being used to enhance education, to enhance our personalized learning in the district, and really making sure that students are still learning those critical thinking skills, that they're still using this tool to support them and help them, but not to replace the teacher and not to replace their thinking. And so, in a nutshell, use it for good. Use it for good to do its best for students and teachers.
Thank you. I agree with that. You have a slide about the different levels. Mm-hmm. So you have like no access to advanced innovation. What's in your mind? I know this is still early in the process, but how will we know to make sure that all grades, or say the same grade band, certain buildings or certain classes are not heavily dependent on AI, mm-hmm. like they're only doing level 4, and one set of students, there's no access throughout the year. What's that? Is there any oversight and when you're submitting lesson plans to make sure that it's kind of evenly distributed?
We've talked a lot about that, like how we're going to do that. And so for us, the first step was to create the documents, to figure that out, like what we want it to look like. And again, working with the teachers and then the community members, what that would look like. I don't have an answer for that yet. I don't, because we don't know what that looks like yet. But we have heard that, we've discussed it. I think it's a very important piece, and it's a very important part that we have to keep our eye on. Like, we don't want, and it's, in the curriculum department where I work, like that happens a lot too. Like you have the have and the have-nots. And so we try to create these guardrails, if you will, and support systems that will help our teachers and our principals know that everyone needs to have equal and fair access to whatever that curriculum may be. Part of what we do, and I'll use a different situation, but with our math curriculums, like my department has been doing math audits, so going in and making sure that we're using the tools correctly. And then, so that helps me understand, okay, I need to do some PD around this because maybe we don't use the learning model the way it should be. Maybe they need more support. Maybe they need more resources that I wasn't aware of. Or maybe we need to give them more guidance about how exactly to use all the pieces and parts of it. And we'll do the same with our reading curriculums. We're doing that right now, K-8 for math, and we'll do K-6 for reading because we just adopted those two large programs last year. I foresee us doing the same thing with this and talking with principals, talking with staff, and I can't stress enough, what I've learned more than anything is that professional learning for teachers is really, really important. They need to understand the reason, the why. Otherwise, we probably shouldn't do it. If they don't understand how this can benefit them, because I don't want to get down the path of we're just replacing, teachers with this, or we're just giving kids the information. And at first glance at the surveys, I was analyzing our staff and student surveys the last couple days, and at first glance, it looks like kids are aware of that. They're very much aware of they want this information to help them, not replace the teacher, not replace the information that they want to look for, but to make it a little bit easier to find it. And so then they can do the critical thinking. And that's my belief, is that use the information, like I said, use it for good, but really use it for, take it so you're more efficient in what you're doing. As teachers, they have a lot of responsibilities in the classroom, and especially as a personalized learning district, we talk a lot about differentiation. We talk a lot about how we have to extend our kids and remediate them, and there's not enough time in the day sometimes. When we talk about an IEP for every kid, how do you do that? If you don't have 25 assistants helping you create that work. And so for me, that's our steps. How do we train our teachers? How do we get them to understand that this can help them be better? It can help them be more efficient and support our kids that way. I don't know if that answered that. I hope it did, but we'll keep our eye on it the best we can, and PD is the most important way to do that.
It did answer my question, thank you. With professional development for the next school year, do we have enough professional development days for this to be incorporated throughout the next school year for our staff?
I can't answer that yet either, because there are many things that we have to look at, and I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what it'll look like. It may look like next year it's just, working with the building principals and doing PD on-site for teachers only. But I don't know that until we land on, as a committee, where we're going to be, what we're going to use, and how we're going to roll that out. We do have a lot at the beginning of the year, so we've talked a lot about how we can do that and support. But I also have other things I need to get PD for buildings on. Like I said, our math curriculum, our reading curriculum, I need to support them that way too. And so I don't know the answer to that.
No, that's kind of where I'm coming from. There's a lot of competing interest, right?
Yes.
Science of reading, which we were kind of ahead of the curve in that, but still a lot of professional development. Just as a board, that's something I think is of interest to making sure our staff are properly informed and equipped.
One of the things that we're doing, sorry, I don't know if you're going to ask me another question, but one of the things we are doing with our curriculums, our K-6 reading curriculum has an AI component built into it for teachers to help them differentiate. And I guess I didn't mention this, that's my vision really when we look at our curriculums. Can they provide us with a resource that's going to help my teachers do more of that differentiation in their classroom inside that walled garden? Now I know that they're using the HMH into reading curriculum, and it's going to give them resources directly from that. And so that's part of PD we can do simultaneously. I can teach them on the curriculum we have, but I can also teach them how to use AI for that, which then can be translated to any really AI tool when you talk about prompting, because that's really what we talk a lot about, is how to get the right prompts, how to make sure it's getting the accurate information that you need out of there. Because if you don't, then you're going to get information that's not helpful. And for our teachers, I think, I've been doing this work for a while. We started this a couple years ago. And so my prompting has gotten a lot more specific. I'm getting more information back that I wouldn't have gotten, 2 years ago, because I've just learned that this is how I need to talk to AI and how I need to get the right information out so I can, disseminate it to my team, and we have what we need for, whatever we happen to be doing at the time.
So I'm hearing there's two sides of the coin. There's the equipping teachers to understand how to best use the tools that AI can provide to prepare students. And then there's the student side of the coin, which is how to best, I'm guessing AI literacy to understand, the impact or what the product AI can produce to make sure it's good information and not to lose their critical thinking, but apply their critical thinking to what is being produced or how they're using AI. I think you showed us an example. We've met, I guess, we've met, had a meeting about AI, you and I, and you've showed us an example of how the PSAT test can, an administrator could help a student prepare for the PSAT, and then you said translate that score or whatever that outcome was for the ACT. And I thought that was kind of you have the administrator view of what they can do, and we have to make sure they're equipped to know how to do that properly. And then you have the student view where it's kind of a shared book or a shared link with them. That way they can then prepare themselves for the next challenge, learning opportunity. Am I correct?
Yeah, right now, again, I speak cautiously because my goal right now is to educate staff, educate admins and teachers. And yes, we do is hopefully at some point we'll be able to use this inside of classrooms, but I'm not willing to commit to anything right now. I'm only committing to training staff and having them understand how it can be more efficient for them and make them, lessen their workload in the classroom. So right now that is my primary focus on how we can use these tools.
That's good. That's good to know. With the board policy that we have a deadline. You said June 1st?
July
1st. As board members, what should we be thinking about as you are continuing this conversation, these guardrails about that policy? Is there anything that you'd like to share about what we should be thinking of, or?
No, the states basically gives us a recommended policy. We're going to be going over that, and we'll go through that at the leadership policy meetings, and then from there we'll make a recommendation. But it's pretty much everyone is doing the same thing because it's a state policy, a state model policy. Yeah.
All right. Are there any other board member questions? Dr. Howard, do you want to add
I
in?
would just encourage the board, learn up on AI, get into some of the, whether it be free applications or not. I think once you start leveraging a little bit of this, it can really open up our perspective and creativity. And I think as you educate your teachers on what the capabilities are and the tools, they will come back to you with probably more creative solutions of how they could apply it in their day-to-day. And that kind of learning, I like your approach on the education of embedding it within the different curriculum components, but the concept of an AI literacy academy for I would say all aspects of your educational teams, whether that be the professional teachers or the assistants, et cetera, just awareness is going to be a good thing. The more that we're educated in the space, the better, and then we can determine what the appropriate way is forward. I think it's very creative on what we can do in maybe the upper classrooms to help outlines, educate, prep, even debate with you and kind of refining your thought process. But that's what I would encourage us to do, is learn up, because I think we can be much more effective and have better conversations with you and the teachers as we're thinking about that policy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time and your presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Next, I invite Director of Operations Ryan Walker for a permanent improvement presentation.
This one.
Then that. Yeah, push both of those. You're all set.
Thank you, James. All right, I apologize for that little delay, but when I get through my slideshow, I'm going to move into something that doesn't really
that I kind of got to manipulate here. So appreciate your patience there. Thanks for having me tonight. We've talked about this in various versions over the years about a presentation regarding our permanent improvement fund and process. So I'm glad to have an opportunity to do that tonight. As I was kind of going through this, I will say it's easy to just start going down rabbit holes on this. So I will try to contain this and keep it relatively short. But so yeah, we'll get going. So the permanent improvement plan, strategic objective, when I think about what we're doing with permanent improvement, it's really the part at the bottom that I think is what I'll come back to a few times, if not explicitly. Just the theme of this is really what we're doing is trying to manage risk intentionally and not react to systems failures. And what I mean by that is we want to be intentional with what we do. The Permanent Improvement Fund has provided a bit of a roadmap for us over the last several years since the community was, blessed us with this gift of the Permanent Improvement Fund. But it has really given us direction in how we go about maintaining our buildings and our physical campus. So when I say not react to systems failures, obviously there is an issue that comes with waiting until things just sort of stop working. It's no different than, how long do you want to drive with the engine light on in your car? You're going to have additional consequences that come with that the longer you roll the dice on that. So the process that we've engaged in this with the Permanent Improvement Fund has just allowed us to look forward, kind of know where we're going. Not maybe specifically year after year, but really give us an idea as to where we're headed, as opposed to just simply responding when things go wrong. And it gives us some transparency in what we're doing as well. Tonight obviously is a part of that, but it allows us to sort of point at what we see as priorities and what we see as necessities in our capital planning. Obviously, a part of this is deferred maintenance. But again, with that proactive approach, we're trying to reduce the amount of response that we're doing annually with our facilities. So I'd invite Mr. Johnson to jump in here if he wants on this, but permanent improvement, just generally speaking, was approved by our voters in 2015, I believe.
So we had a PI, we actually have two PI levies. So there was one approved, it was well before my time. I'm not sure when it was initially approved. And then we did what was called the no new millage PI levy. I believe that was 2018, where we had some bond millage that was decreasing, and we increased the PI millage, so it gave us additional PI funds without increasing taxes. So that was back in 2018. Okay. And so this fund exists separate from the general fund. This is specifically for capital improvements, and we're looking at more long-term improvements with this fund. The capital planning framework that we use, again, we set this forward in 2015 was where I think the projections began. A facilities assessment was done at the time, went through all of our buildings, created capital baselines for us to use that would again guide our progress with our building maintenance or our planning maintenance. And divided our capital planning into these categories: mechanical systems, flooring, athletics, buses, roofing, asphalt, general equipment, and then there's IT and curriculum, which I am not going to get into tonight. These categories are somewhat fluid, so while if we were looking at the way things are budgeted, that something every year we would go through with an agenda and place things sort of in a category based on the budget that exists for each one of these categories. But I just want to
just touch on the fact that we may have a dollar amount set for mechanical systems or roofing one year that we don't necessarily need to use, but we may have another area of need. And so we will kind of move those things around a little bit as the situation requires. 2025 facilities assessment update, we engaged HPM to conduct a comprehensive asset inventory and building assessment. You may be aware of this. They presented our master facility planning through several community engagement events. While there were several components of that, something that we got out of that was quite valuable was this asset inventory. This really provided an update to what was done previously. Obviously, a lot has changed over the years, and it also gave us an update into the inventory that has changed just in our just in our own sort of internal inventory. So it allowed us to go through and put another lens on what we have looked at in the past. What did we get out of this? And I would say maybe what did we learn from this process? Well, one of the things we learned was some of the things that we thought, the way we thought things might progress over time has changed. But it also validated what was done in the initial assessments. So we weren't wildly off or anything like that when we came back with HPM where we said we've got to totally reset this. In fact, what they put forward really wasn't at all far off from what we were already planning. There weren't too many surprises, but it did tell us that maybe the cadence of some of the funding would need to change a little bit. Just as an example, we pay about 60% more for a bus in 2026 than we did in 2020. So that's not a jump that you could have really planned for in 2015 or 2018. So there were some reassessments that needed to be done in regards to changing some of those capital baselines. But what was nice about this too is that it is done without our own bias. So a firm coming in to look at these things, they're looking at these buildings and our systems without any prior knowledge of them, which is really helpful because our staff and our guys, we know these things intimately. So if we were just to go through and do this building assessments, this asset inventory on our own, we may come to that thinking, well, we've done this on that particular model of rooftop unit. And that can bias how we think about that particular unit or other systems related to it. So it did help us reset and rethink a little bit how we're moving forward. And maybe the most valuable piece of it was they're able to look at our current situation, look at life expectancy of all of our systems and give us an identification of priority needs, which again, it gets a little difficult when you're doing that on our end on a day-to-day basis or a year-over-year basis because we really are looking at these things in the moment sometimes, where you can get caught up in the history of a particular unit or category that we have. And them putting this together really helped us sort of roadmap a short-term list of priorities. Our current capital project decision process, this is basically the process, how we go about making decisions each year as far as what projects we will accept and move on with. So the conditions assessment data, so this is a little bit new for us because now that we have the HPM data set behind us, we can start there and look at that priority needs list that we got from them. if something comes online that we know we need to look at, that's going to be the top of our list. An example might be one of the things they called out, top priority for them was a fire alarm system at Marysville High School. So that's kind of was our starting point last year. Turns out that's a massive project, so we need to do it. We're going to take it on this year, so we didn't take one of the probably the top 3 items they had on their list initially, but we were able to sort of validate we need to do that and put ourselves in a position where we can do the proper timing to make that happen in a way that's not too disruptive for the building. So we start with that, conditions assessment data, evaluate building level operational requests, so that's sort of our internal work order system. Identify end of life indicators. This is just knowing the units that we have, knowing the conditions of our buildings, and just what is the expected lifetime for those units. Feasibility and timing. This is pretty important. Again, I go back to the fire alarm system. It's got a pretty big price tag to it. Also, if your fire alarm system is down in a building as big as Marysville High School with many kids in it as there are, that can be a problem. So you don't want just going to start pulling stuff out while the building is occupied. So we have that one takes some planning. The feasibility, of course, is also how it fits into what our budget is for the year. We also do solicit buildings as far as requests that they might have. So we'll talk with principals and try to get their input. They live in those buildings and things we just might be missing. So then we establish our fiscal year capital agenda. We do present that to superintendent and treasurer, and once that is approved, then we move along to execute that plan. Again, what I talked about earlier with the idea that, you know, we don't want to just react to failures. What our current model does is it gives us an ability to be proactive. The data set we get from HPM was super helpful. We can control our deferred maintenance exposure, meaning, again, we're just trying to reduce the amount of stuff that we're sort of on emergency calls for. It's predictable, and obviously it aligns with what we're bringing in with the PI. We're not gonna overspend. We're not gonna get over our skis on stuff because we do have those guardrails with the PI fund. And I do want to point out too that, you know, obviously our core business is educating students. So when we go through this process, everything is done with an eye towards what is the best. We want to achieve the best environmental conditions we can for the lowest possible cost. If money was no object, we would tackle every issue that every building has every year, but obviously we have a finite amount of funds that we are dealing with. And so while HPM and that process may have identified some things that really need to adjust or be dealt with now, we really want to make sure that we're addressing what is student need call for here. So sometimes the priorities we kind of move things maybe one year or another because there may be something that has a greater student impact and something we can just kind of deal with maintenance for the time being. So when it comes to the future, you know, Chris was talking about AI earlier. Obviously, that is a huge part of everyone's life now. I was fortunate enough to be in a seminar with a bunch of facilities managers, and you know, it is interesting when you see sort of how far behind you are when it comes to AI. And in our case, the application of that is BAS, or the Building Automated Systems. And so where we are right now, as much as I just talked about not wanting to be too reactive and trying to be proactive and intentional about risk management, right now what we do is we look at stuff and we make decisions. If we were further along in building automation systems, we wouldn't be looking at stuff and making decisions. The stuff would be telling us, like, I need to be retired, or I need maintenance, or I work with that machine over there and that machine's not pulling its weight. And it's not hyperbolic, like that's how this stuff works now. Residentially, you probably have some of it in your homes. On a commercial scale like this, can be a little bit scary when you start talking about price tags for things like that. But the return on that stuff is significant. It can be hard to quantify, but a time will come when we will have to implement AI-enabled building systems. Part of the reason for that is, as what we have ages, they become obsolete. Systems become obsolete and they are no longer supported. They are no longer manufactured. Just as a fun little exercise, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the age of all of our buildings. I won't go down the whole list, but original construction, our oldest building comes in at 1914. Now, to be fair, we're not occupying that building right now, but 1914 up to 2008, and I think all but two of our buildings have additions on them. So we may not be the biggest school district in the state, but we do have a complex system, especially right where we are. We have a cluster of buildings that were built roughly around the same time. We've got some pretty old buildings with some pretty old parts, and it's all going to start aging out here pretty soon, or roughly in the same era, and we're going to have to deal with that. And when we do deal with that, if we can have an eye towards these building automated systems, one that will speak back to us, there is a return we get from that, in that there's energy efficiencies with these things because they don't want to work harder than they have to. Just like a human, if they can sort of dial it back, they're going to want to do that too. And energy costs are not going down. So aside from a system just telling us, hey, I need to be replaced or I need maintenance, those systems can make decisions on their own to reduce their energy consumption. Todd and I were going back and forth about this earlier today, and we have to find ways to reduce energy consumption because in an organization this large, buildings this big, it is a real thing. So then outcomes, I've just touched on quite a few of these things, but again, at the end of the day, this is about the best environment we can create for students and the most responsible way that we can do that. Obviously, I wouldn't be saying the things about what the future holds with AI and building automated systems. I didn't believe that that was a good thing to start looking at. I think the best stewardship that we can have in this arena is as we start to look at new builds and renovations and turning over systems that we are looking at, the buildings that can return, or the systems that can return the most to us. They will treat our students well, but they will also treat our taxpayers well in reducing at least that burden, this energy burden on our buildings. So. Okay, I'm gonna switch over here to our capital planner tool, and I apologize, there's gonna be a little delay as I go back and forth between these. Well, there's a little delay between my screen and those screens, but before I get into this, I just wanna pause. Any questions about the slides I went through? And if you wanna hold off, that's fine too, but, okay. So what I just went through, that presentation was really just, it's an idea of how we're progressing and what the process is. What you're looking at here is not theoretical. These are real numbers. So on the screen, I have a snapshot showing from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 31. So 25 being the previous year, 26 being the year we are in, and 27 being the year we are about to enter. It's a relatively simple bar graph in that it shows there is an upward trend in what the costs of our buildings are going to be. So the blue lines, so the blue on the screen is, if you can see that, that's upcoming asset replacement. So this is the estimated cost of all of the assets that would come due in the fiscal year 2028. So that totals, $9.5 million. We do not have $9.5 million in the PI budget for fiscal year 2028. So we have a very good maintenance team. We have some very good mechanics, and they do a great job maintaining all of our stuff, meaning that even though this shows a fiscal year 28 that we've got to replace a whole bunch of stuff at a cost of $9.5 million, our maintenance chases that down. So the things that may show they're due to be replaced in that year doesn't necessarily mean that they must be replaced in that year. So for example, one of the buses are included in this. Typically, you take a bus 10 to 12 years, it's time to retire the bus. A bus hits 10 years, we're not just automatically going to throw it away because it hits 10 years. We will maintain that bus as long as we can safely. You have a rooftop unit at Northwood Elementary, so you have heating and cooling system at Northwood Elementary. It's going to work differently. Even if it's the same model, same size and everything, it will work a little bit longer at Northwood Elementary than it will at Marysville High School. Reason somewhat obvious in that it's just driving harder at Marysville High School. So the lifespan of these two machines might, on paper, be the same, but the one at Marysville High School has probably been driven a heck of a lot harder than the one at Northwood Elementary School. So I only bring that up to say, again, if we had unlimited funds, we could take care of these things each year, and there would never be this discrepancy between projects that we intend to do and the asset replacement costs. But we have to make decisions. And our maintenance team, like I said, does a great job to kind of chase after these things to make it so that we don't necessarily have to replace these things all the time. But again, that's where it gets tricky because we're trying not to be so reactive that we put ourselves in a bind when it comes time to actually replace things. So look at fiscal year 25. We had project asset replacement costs of about $4.2 million. The projects we completed totaled just over $2 million. If you look at the expense, you look at the snapshot for this period from 25 to 31, the total cost, if we did everything, would be about $74 million. Again, the blue clearly will outpace what we're able to do. And on this chart too, just going back to fiscal year 25, so the orange on here, those are projects we completed. So then in fiscal year 26, the current year that we're in, we're at about 1.3 million in projects completed, and about another 1.1 million in projects yet to be completed this year, with asset replacement costs estimated about 3.2. So a lot of times these are kind of big, scary numbers when we're talking about facilities. And one of the things I think we wanted to do this in front of you all is just to say, give an idea of what this looks like and sort of what we're up against and trying to get through it, but also that we are intentional about this. We're looking at the data. We're trying to help that guide our decisions moving forward and, trying to go about it responsibly. So if we look at fiscal year 27, the year coming up, just a quick little heat map here. One of the things this particular tool allows us to do is just quickly identify, where are these larger needs? Again, we're calling out almost $2 million in buses. Well, we're not going to do $2 million of bus exchanges here. Again, we have mechanics that do a nice job. Some buses get driven more than others. You get to high mileage, you can reduce what that bus is asked to do on a daily basis. Sometimes you can make an older bus be a very short route or a substitute bus or something like that. So there's ways we can kind of work around the assets we have that are aging. Just a quick look. Again, this is for the upcoming year that I've got on here. So the cost by building, Marysville High School. I mentioned we have a big project there with a fire alarm system. Edgewood Elementary, Northwood, all kind of registering in with pretty large numbers. In any given year, those numbers are going to fluctuate between buildings. One thing that you see a lot is Edgewood and ECHS. Edgewood being altogether the oldest building that we have in service. Edgewood has some issues with foundation and things like that. Those are kind of high ticket items. ECHS had the same thing. But this just kind of gives a little bit of a snapshot, and right here I'm looking at cost by type, like where these costs are. Also, Marysville High School, we've got a rather large asphalt project that's going to go on this summer, so those are two very large ticket items. A lot of these numbers when we're talking about facilities can get kind of big and just kind of hard to talk about, but there is a plan to deal with these. We do tackle these with intent. And the nice thing, what we've got back with the HPM data is we really can prioritize those things based on some real solid information that we have. Our maintenance team prior to that has done a very good job trying to sort of literally have the pulse of everything, but now we can work with a little more intent what we had in the past. So I could probably just start clicking on stuff all night long, but I will stop here and just sort of open up for questions.
Do we have questions from board members? Board member Bishop?
Two thoughts. One, you talked about the permanent improvement fund. So if we had unlimited funds in the general fund, would we be able to just shift money over? And then my second question is that in 2015, was that an in-house assessment of all of the projects that would need to be done? And if so, like, since you mentioned that the HPM assessment was such a valuable third-party tool, is there a plan for that type of third-party assessment in the future so that we can keep being really mindful about the way the funds are used?
I'll let Todd speak to the first one for sure.
Yeah. So the question of general fund dollars used for this type of project, yes, if we had unlimited general fund dollars, general fund by definition, it could do all of these projects. So you could spend general fund dollars to, buy a school bus. You could spend general fund dollars to fix a parking lot. That would be allowable.
So I think your other question is, so I'm using 2015 because in that assessment, that was the beginning year. So I'm not sure what year that was actually engaged in. I don't know who that firm was, but that was not in-house. Do you know who?
Yeah, there's a gentleman that's actually a business manager that it was kind of a side business that he has where he goes to districts. I'm going to say, not maybe to the level that HPM does in terms of looking at individual projects, more looking at, what's the square footage of flooring that you have? Well, here's an estimated cost. What type of roof do you have? Well, here's a replacement cost. So that's how the original forecast was created, that just kind of created buckets of money that were kind of set aside, knowing that, here are likely costs. which has been very valuable, but this takes it to another level to where, with the old system, we could look ahead and say, we're probably going to spend $600,000 on asphalt in 3 years. But this will take it to the level of, well, most likely, here's the building where we're going to do it, or here's the individual HVAC system that's probably going to need replaced. So it adds another level of transparency, allows more for prioritizing, and also just better for planning.
And so, I'm sorry. So I think the third part of your question is basically, will it happen again? So we just finished up another conditions assessment with the Ohio Facilities Commission. So it's not exactly the same thing. It's actually a little more in depth. But one of the limitations of this, right, is this is dealing with particularly asset replacement costs. It's not really dealing with a wholesale building renovation or building replacement. That is what OFCC is doing. Now, there's some overlap in that work, and there'll be, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a future meeting or something, but the two efforts will marry to a degree. What they're doing when that's finished and the dust has settled on that, will give us sort of an even deeper version of what we have here. But that one is done with an eye towards if you were to renovate, like a whole building scale altogether, if you were to renovate, if you were to replace and things like that. So that process will actually carry on for quite some time. However, will we do this again, like in this version? I'm sure we will. What the work that OFCC is doing, though, will probably set the stage for our more, as we tackle more going into that 2029 year.
As you looked at the graph, preventative maintenance or the maintenance that the team is doing a great job, just pushes us out further and probably makes that 2031 number that you will ultimately have to replace even bigger. And that dollar line is not increasing. With preventative maintenance and the funds, what are our thoughts on how we close that gap, knowing that we do have a strong population of schools all built around the same period that will probably come to end of life around a similar time?
Well, if I can answer for you, Ryan, I think the potential easy button is, what we're looking at with the potential bond issue coming up with that would be a little bit of a reset, where we could, we've got a certain number of buses that are all likely to, expire at about the same time. That would be a huge hit to the PI forecast. And some of these things that you're seeing on the graph, ideally, we would be able to use a portion of that bond issue to kind of give a little bit of a reset, refresh some of those buildings that are, having some deferred maintenance. In the absence of the bond issue, we'll just have some tough decisions to make because we're, likely going to face, not enough money to cover the needs.
Got it. Thank you.
So just to kind of piggyback on that, because there's something that's not really reflected real well in this image, which is, so in fiscal year 25, for example, this blue stack right here, really, if we wanted to display this appropriately, that blue stack is stuff we didn't do. So we should really kind of pick that up.
That's what I was going to ask you. If we could actually see what was projected for these years and then actually what did we spend? So, because that type of differential would be helpful to understand what your maintenance team and what we're able to defer, or what percentage that we're typically deferring based on this.
You mean spent in maintenance and deferred maintenance?
And so the blue bars is what's coming up, right? We're saying that is what's potential. You don't actually spend that full amount because you're able to use your maintenance crews and make tough decisions.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see is this is what we anticipated coming to end of life. What was the actual amount, and do we see that consistent?
So this right here, I think, is fairly close to what you're getting at. And so again, the reality is we'll never catch up to it. It's just not possible. When you look at, if I just come up here and kind of clear this, the numbers get pretty high. And some of that has to do with buildings that will obviously have to retire. 1914, you know. So, and it starts to drop off because it's assuming you've taken care of other things, right? But in reality, even the things that we do, you know, there's limitations to this, but when even, you know, the orange that's over here that we have done, that just now becomes 2055. You know, it just hasn't advanced yet. So this never flattens out. Yeah. So it's a good point, though, because as each year, the things that we don't do, unfortunately, there's a bit of a compounding effort that goes with that. I don't even want to think about, again, I talked about, you know, buses inflating by 60-some% in a 5 or 6 year period. It's kind of crazy. Construction costs, you know, we say pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's slowed down, but nobody said, hey, we're going to sell you lumber for less now. So unfortunately, it's not just that it moves the next year. And that's always say, you know, this stuff's going to happen sooner or later. It's just going to cost more sooner or later.
And I think those inflationary trends are also compounding the cost as we push these things out. So when do you make those decisions? But this is very helpful and a great perspective. So thank you.
The nice thing about where we are right now, I would say, I think Todd was hinting at this, is that with the work we've gotten from HPM, which really drilled down into each asset, we can have an intentionality to this that we didn't really have before. So it's a little less guessing. And I would say, I don't have it with me, but if you looked at sort of the top 10 things they listed as critical, that's really what we've done the last 2 years, and it's what's on the agenda for next year too. So now, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but there are some things too that are huge price tags that will have to be replaced, but that can offset some of the costs that will come later, lighting being an easy example. Unfortunately, in this application, you can't just unscrew a T5, T8 light bulb and put a LED in there. It doesn't work that way. You got to change the ballast out and stuff like that. So it's time and cost intensive. But once that's done, those things have a very long lifespan, and they can be put on those building automation systems where they just sort of turn themselves down or off, and they just consume a fraction of the amount of energy that the other things do. So there are gains that can be made. It's just you got to kind of deal with the pain of doing it up front. So, but yes, it's a good point.
Matt, do you have a question at this time? So thank you for the presentation tonight. I do have, so HPM, we have our facilities plan that's on our website, and the adequacy, like for each building, the adequacy score, and there's also like the current need cost. Is that what's driving the data that you have on your tool, or using HPMs, or is it kind of manipulated for what we also know in-house?
No, it's HPM.
HPM, okay.
Yeah, now adequacy need, there's probably a little bit of a diversion there on their adequacy score, because this is really dealing pretty black and white, pretty nuts and bolts with, you know, either we went and looked at something, and based on what we looked at, this is where we find this is where we would place its replacement year, where it comes due, or that unit, that model, or I mean, honestly, the flooring's been in for 25 years. Flooring's got to go, so they would put that in, you know, and it depends a little bit on the application where that flooring might be, but it really is, but this is the information behind this. And here, I'll just scroll down real quick. Like, if I scroll down here, all of the data that's behind the graph, mm-hmm. it comes from HPM's in building assessments. Now, other than the buses, that's us, but yeah.
Understood. So is there a way for us to use a tool like this to maybe have like a 2-year forecast or a 3-year forecast? That way the board, and then we can communicate to the community, here's how we're investing your permanent improvement dollars into our facilities. I know some of the projects that are high-cost needs are going to probably be explored by this board to see if we can roll it into the bond, but we also want to make sure that we're taking care of and have awareness, because there is a cycle, like we have agenda item tonight that is a part of the PI fund. How are we able to use this tool to maybe communicate to the board and then to our community, here's what's coming, here's what we intend to invest in on these projects, and then here's the projects that we really need this bond to help cover.
So that's actually the next step. So we're going to be taking this information, and I will present to you kind of a 3-year, we've always had a long-term PI forecast, but now I will present maybe a little more detailed, like a 3-year plan. This will allow us to get into a little more detail of, in year 3, what are we expecting to spend our mechanicals money on, and then get into some of those other aspects that will be the full expenditure scope of the PI forecast over a 3-year period.
Thank you. I like where we're going here, and I like how we're leveraging the assessment. And I also want to say that, there was a 20-year forecast that the district you referenced that started in 2015, and it's helped prolong a lot of our buildings. And so thank you to you and your team for the work that you've done. Personally, I'm very interested in making sure we get that forecast so we can really hyper communicate, knowing that buildings are going to be a topic of mind, making sure we show the value of the permanent improvement fund, and then how we are investing, because I think that's also, we've talked a lot in my time on the board about the general fund and all the aspects of that. I think this is an area of opportunity to increase our communication on. So I look forward to that conversation, that journey.
I think it's a good thing to do, and Todd and I have talked quite a bit about that. I think the only sort of caution that we have to approach it with is, if we sort of, I'll just say, priced out a project today, what that looks like in 3 years, we can identify the need and we can sort of put today's dollars on it. It is a little difficult, though, especially when you're talking construction projects, what that looks like a couple years out. But yes, I like we've talked about it. We can definitely do that. And I do just want to very quickly. We were engaged with a firm about some energy projects and some building projects, and they actually, using their metrics, scored our building, are across the board. How well the buildings are being upkept. I'd be happy to give this to you. We really didn't engage them for this purpose. It was just something they did. And so you would kind of there's a baseline, either fall above it, you fall below it, or you can be way above it, you can be way below it. Well, they had us ranked, and it's basically based on cost per square foot, like what's our input versus the age of the buildings and so on, and the size of the buildings. And they grade us at A across the board. So kind of to the question about how well does our maintenance team get after this, like, given the size of our maintenance team, what we're able to do, I'd say they're doing a pretty good job. I will say, the other part of this, we have tradesmen in our team right now. That may not be the case as the years go on. It's hard to keep up as far as hiring, say, trained, certified, say, HVAC technicians and what they can do now in the open market, or electricians and things like that. So we may find ourselves getting into a contracted service environment at some point. We're not there right now, but how that changes this, I don't know. But I will say that at least as of right now, small but mighty team we have has done a really nice job. I would say the bus mechanics it's the same deal. Our custodians, like, everybody's there doing that work to provide the best environment for the kids. So they do a great job. There's a lot to do.
What's the size of your team? Some of us are new on this board. What's the size of your team, and if you want to share that?
No, we have 7 maintenance positions we are under right now. We have 2 basically unfilled. I'll just sort of point to what I just said about it being hard to hire tradesmen. We have 2 full-time mechanics that work on the buses. We have 30 custodians. Now, the custodians play a little bit different role than maintenance does, but again, the upkeep and the maintenance and sort of just the general health of the buildings, they're an important part of that. So that group sort of all together, you know, the efforts of, you know, I always say we talk about custodians, the reason we don't call them janitors. You know, they care for the buildings, and they really do. In the maintenance team, it's the same way. You know, very proactive group, very skilled, and they have, along with the roadmap that we have through the PI fund, it really helped us probably stretch things out with our buildings more than it would have otherwise. So.
Well, I thank you and your team, and I know the environment that our students learn and our staff teach in matters. It's directly tied to student achievement. So if your environment's crappy or if things are broken and not fixed, that's not helpful for students to be able to learn and focus. You know, if the air conditioning's not working, they can't focus on what their content is being. And so it's directly tied to student achievement. So I just want to thank you and your team for your expertise and investment into our district by being the custodians, not necessarily not the custodians of our assets, making sure that they are well maintained. So I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. Switching gears here, Dr. Howard, it's your time for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board. Our technology here will share some slides on the screen here momentarily. But not too long ago, had a chance to talk with some stakeholders, and the thought was, share with me, it would be really nice to know where $1 that is spent in our district, how is that allocated? And so we created this little graphic here with our cute little monarch lion, showing, you know, if we spend $1, 59 cents of that goes to classroom instruction, 7 cents to student support, 18 building operations, 11 cents administration, and 5 cents for student and staff services. So if we go to the next slide here, we can sort of break this down. We can show where we are comparatively across the state. And so you'll see there, rather than cents, we just break that down into a percentage. What is that 59 cents of every dollar that is received by the district? That's classroom instruction, and that equates $8,123 per student. With student support, $968, and then that is where that 7 comes into play. Building operations, you can see the amounts there. In the right column, you see where we are to the state average. And I think what it shows is that we spend $3,906 less on our students than the state average. But something I'm really proud of is that we prioritize a higher percentage of our dollars toward direct student classroom instruction. So, and we have a lower percentage that is allocated in comparison to the state average for building operations and administration. So I thought that would be some good data to share with the board. Might be helpful for the community to understand where a dollar is spent. And if anybody is interested in that data was driven from the CUP report. So,
May I ask some novice questions?
Yeah.
What's an example of like student support and then staff support?
Yeah, so student support would be like your classroom aides. Staff support would be like your instructional coaches, library aides, technology staff.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to share, if we advance to the next slide here, Thought it'd be worthwhile to eventually add a tab onto our website where we could title it Straight from the Lion's Mouth. And the idea here is there's a lot of social media, there's a lot of things that get shared. There's a lot of things that are mentioned specifically about the schools. Quite frankly, some of it's true, but some of it is rumor mill and it gains legs. And so I wanted to share that recently on social media, there was a post that was made regarding a student that was served frozen strawberries that allegedly expired in 2020. The threaded discussion, it gained lots of traction regarding the food that's served and other experiences. In reality, the frozen strawberries in question had an expiration date of 2028, so not 2020. And with the volume of food that's served by our food service team to our students, items are rotated through the freezers multiple times throughout the school year. And consumables are secured from multiple vendors and deliveries take place weekly. Occasionally, there are deliverables that do not meet our standard, and when that happens, of course, we will notify the vendors and they'll issue us credits for that. One example is every week we get a new shipment of milk from the dairy, and it's just like when you and I go to the store, occasionally you bring a carton home and you find out that, you know, the milk is spoiled. So that does happen, but our food service team does a great job of serving nutritious and delicious meals to our students and staff. We have over 6,000 individuals in our building every day that is able to be served by them if they choose. As was the case with the social media posts, we always encourage individuals with questions, reach out to the buildings, reach out here. In this case, reach out to food service. Certainly we're going to make mistakes at time, and the idea on this is it's an opportunity to say, yeah, we fell short, or that did happen. Here's how we're trying to remedy it. But in this particular case, I thought this would be an example where if we were to have this on our website, it'd be a great way to lead people toward, here's the rest of the story, or here's the actual facts of the scenario. So, and also wanted to end with, this was one of my favorite stories from a little while ago. So on February 12th, I had, I'm sorry, I said February, but it's March 12th. I received word from Mr. Langhouse that Heather Plum, and this is Heather Plum here in this photo, and she was honored on Educator Appreciation Night by one of our players. I'm not surprised by that, but I learned that she was going to school on the 12th, noticed that there was a young student that was distraught in tears along Route 31. And she did what you would hope, as a parent, that good Samaritans would do. She pulled over and rendered aid to this young student that was, upset. It turns out that our students missed the bus and thought that they would just walk to school, and so thankfully she noticed that. She pulled over, and I thought I would just read to you her response, because I had contacted her to compliment her and share appreciation for that. And she said, "Thank you for the kind words. It was a no-brainer for me. I couldn't live with myself. I drove away and something happened to him. A fun fact that you might like to know, when I pulled over and ran up to him, I didn't want to startle him, stranger danger. I said, 'Hi, buddy, I'm a teacher. Can I help you?' And he said, 'Yes, you were my teacher. Turns out I had him in the first grade back when he went to Northwood. It all came back to me after he settled down. It was so fun sitting in the Taco Bell parking lot, catching up on life. He proudly told me he passed his math and reading iReady test, and today was basketball day in gym class. So little silver lining in the moment. And she shared kudos to Jonathan and Todd Amos for working so quickly. Todd was so friendly towards the student when he got there, and all is well. So she took the time, she called Jonathan Lang out and said, hey, I'm going to be a little bit late. Reached out to Mr. Amos. He got in one of the school vans and came transport our students. So all was well, but kudos to Heather Plum and our staff that do things like this daily.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. That's such a great story to share, and just shows the quality of our staff. So thank you. Treasury report.
Yeah, I have a brief report, kind of along the lines of Dr. Howard's. We're continually trying to find ways to be financially transparent and give valuable information to the community, but at the same time recognizing that sometimes when I start talking about the 5-year forecast and tens of millions of dollars, that some people just shut down and don't really want to hear about that. So we created something that hopefully is just another tool to present information in a different way. This talks more about just the overall scope of the district and also putting some of the dollars in daily formats. So, for example, our buses drive an average of 7,500 miles per day, which, just because I'm a nerd, I was kind of curious, that's actually very near to the diameter of the Earth. So that's a daily basis. Our district is 140 square miles. That makes us the 60th largest district in the state from a square mile standpoint. So that's 60th largest out of about 606 districts. We have 1.1 million educational square feet that we're maintaining. So that points to the job that Ryan and his maintenance team is doing daily, serving an average of over 2,200 lunches per day. Student count of nearly 5,700, which includes preschool. We have 692 staff members, which makes us one of the largest employers in the area. We always talk about our expenditures, but if you look at the average expenditure from a daily standpoint on a single student is $74. Which, try to put that in perspective, I don't think I could find a babysitter for that cheap, and you can't find a babysitter that's going to teach your kid trigonometry and art and science. So we do pretty good. Total expenditure per pupil, we're among the lowest 8% in Ohio. We're $3,900 below average. And then on the revenue side, unfortunately, we've talked about in the past, the second lowest revenue per pupil in the state, with a number that's $5,600 below average. So again, this is a tool, maybe something you can use when you're talking to constituents, just to help put things in a different perspective.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
So one thing both Dr. Howard and you have mentioned is the low cost relative to our peers in the education system here in Ohio. What you haven't told is the other half of the story. While we're one of the lowest from a cost standpoint, we're not at the low end when we talk about academic performance. And I think that's a balance that we really need to highlight, that, we are excelling and 4-star students. So Dr. Howard, maybe you can just kind of give us that perspective a bit.
Yeah, I would expand on that. I think that's something we want to strive for. We don't want to spend needlessly, right? And we want to be efficient and share, for our taxpayers, we want to make sure that, I like to say, we're giving them bang for their buck. We're certainly doing that, but I can tell you that it's a lean operation, and so that it is difficult at times. But with regard to student achievement and expenditures, I think we're near the very top.
Thank you. Next is the board president's report. Tonight, I do just want to kind of follow up on our community engagement plan that the board's working on. the district sent out a survey for Let's Talk. There are several kind of conversations that are focused around different educational topics regarding the operations of our school district, how we serve students. And so if you have not checked your email, please check it and respond, because we want to hear from you, parents, community members, business leaders, so that way we can make sure that these talks are focused in your areas of interest. So thank you for Dr. Howard and his team for putting together some of this survey and some of these topics, and we hope to see you guys at these Let's Talk events here in the future. In that same vein, or that same spirit, OSBA, the Ohio School Board Association, will be hosting a town hall on April 21st here in our district. So the school association president, Mary Cleveland, will be here. There's more details that we're still kind of working out, but just save the date, April 21st, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's going to, in this room, it's going to be open to community members, other school members, to kind of give an update about the state of public education. And so we're proud to be the first district to kind of host some of these town halls that will be launched throughout the state. And so save the date. We can all be here as long as we don't gather together and huddle and talk about school business. Lastly, I always like to end with our vision statement. Community coffee. We always host a community coffee the Sunday before our board meetings. We held one. It was nice. It was a good time. Leanne and I were here present. Maybe should change this to maybe Board of Education office hours or something different subject. That way, it's maybe. Just rebrand it from the community coffee to open hours since it's here in our district. But we should see some other engagements in the community with our board. We're still working on that, details to be able to be out in the community and other settings. That way we can engage and meet with community members. But you're always welcome to attend our community coffees the Sunday before our regular board meeting. And I'd like to end with our district vision statement, because this is why we do the work that we do. Our district vision statement is: each child at Marysville schools will be challenged, prepared, and empowered through innovation, collaboration, and inspiration. Innovation to ignite their curiosity, collaboration to strengthen their capacity, inspiration to empower their confidence, and fortitude toward the future. And it's our hope that every meeting that we have is empowering this vision. Next, we have our student achievement report.
Thank you. So clearly we had, 189? I can't believe I remembered that number.
Yeah, it's a good memory, yeah. 180, well, actually 200 students recognized, 189.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of great student achievement over this last season. Look forward to see what that looks like come spring with all of our spring activities and sports. So thanks to Dr. Howard for suggesting this month we focus a little bit on the teachers that help all this student achievement. So just to bring some additional awareness that Lori Hicks was recognized from the Alpha Delta Kappa International Fraternity for Female Educators. She won the Alpha Upsilon Valentine's Award winner this year. And then our own Sherry Anderson won the Outstanding Agricultural Education Award from the Ohio Association of Agricultural Educators. So kudos to both of them.
Thank you. Congratulations to both of those staff members. Mr. Keller, legislative report.
Thanks, Jermaine. 3 House bills that are drastically affecting our funding, I believe, take effect today or tomorrow. Is that right, Mr. Johnson? March 19th, 124, 129, and 186. A few House bills that have come up with some momentum. There's a Fostering School Success Act, where basically it allocates a foster care education liaison and building staff member to make sure that foster place students have a support system in the school. House Bill 437 is geared to youth cardiac monitoring. And then one other one, and I was kind of wondering, Dr. Howard, how it affects us. This one still needs to be passed in the Senate, but it did pass 91 to nothing. No one was against it. This bill, it's House Bill 500. It designates a JROTC program offered by a school district as a career tech education program. And then it's going in front of the Senate. So I guess my question was, how does that affect us with our movement to incorporate JROTC in our schools for next year?
Assuming this proceeds and becomes law, it's going to help us with CTE funding, but it'll also sort of streamline the graduation pathway. So it could not be any more perfect timing for us to establish this program.
That's great. And so would that be like you're paid by the amount of students enrolled in those courses? Is that what that would be?
I know, well, part of it, if we can just recall, so when you have an established JROTC program, the government will help subsidize half of the teacher's salary. Now CTE funds.
So CTE funding in general, and it'll depend on how, if and how they actually pass the law, but my assumption would be it's usually going to be based on a per pupil basis, and it's basically weighted funding. So as opposed to just the normal state funding that you would get for this one pupil, because they're in this CTE class, you would get an additional percentage of funding for that program, and the funding has to support that program, and you have to prove that you spent the money in support of that program.
That sounds good for our district for sure. And 91-0 vote had passed so far. I would think that's a good indicator for the Senate. That's it for my legislative report.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Yeah, I actually, the bill sponsor of that, Ty Matthews, he's a veteran of the National Guard, and I was able to kind of meet and spend time with him at the, I attended a week-long seminar for public leadership last summer, and so he's a great guy, and he's a veteran. This is definitely something he's passionate about to help provide opportunities for students. And then just we have our legislative conference next week, and I know right now we at least have potential FaceTime with Senator Reineke during our luncheon, which he is the leading candidate to be the next Senate president next GA. So we hope to have FaceTime with Representative Richardson too, but we're still working out those details. So thank you. Next is the fun stuff. We get to vote. We have a recommendation to approve draft minutes of February 19th regular meeting and February 19th special meeting as submitted by Todd Johnson, our treasurer.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Roll call, please. Or any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes. The minutes are approved. Under Board of Education items, we have a recommendation to approve the resolution to terminate Jason Ford from his employment as a custodian with the Marysville Exempted Village School District effective March 19th, 2026.
I'll motion.
It's been motioned.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. I will say that the board's reviewed, due process has been in place, and everything is in
I would
order.
just like to commend the school principal and the staff on taking expedited action on this and following the processes.
We won't read the resolution. We'll call it to a vote.
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes. The resolution is adopted. Next, we have a recommendation to approve board policies.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Dr. Howard?
Just that, a reminder, this is a second read, so we're asking you to actually approve these this evening. There are 6 of them. Happy to answer any questions you may have on individual policies.
Are there any questions by board members? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Shepherd? Yes. Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, the policies are adopted. Thank you. Next, we have a recommendation to approve the purchase of 4 72-passenger regular education propane school buses.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? These are, again, the resolution states 4 72-passenger regular education propane buses for a total of $547,124.
And these are replacements of existing buses that have aged out. Let's just refer to that, correct?
Correct, yeah. We'll rotate the fleet out, sell buses that are no longer of value to us. So yes, that helps keep our fleet more current. And they are propane. I know you mentioned that, but as we've started to shift the fleet toward propane, so that is nice too.
And it's also worth noting, this is kind of the benefit of, we talk about that PI forecast, and sometimes you move money from one year to another. So the original plan was to buy 3 school buses this year. We actually got a deal on these buses because another school district had ordered them, and then they backed out of the deal. So the vendor came to us and offered them at a nice discount. I think we're saving over $10,000 per bus. So we were able to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, roll call.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes. The resolution is adopted. Next, we have a recommendation to approve the Marysville High School Fire Panel Replacement Phase 1 resolution.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Dr. Howard or Treasurer Johnson?
I'll just add that you heard Mr. Walker share that this was one of the priority items. Occasionally, the fire alarms go off and they're false at the high school. That's been something that is a challenge, but it is toward the end of its life. It's a big price tag, $257,000, as you can see there. But we're getting this through the Union County Council of Governance with consortium pricing, and this would be Johnson Controls.
And just for the record, Mr. Johnson, this is not your company, correct? Okay. Thank you. We'll forego the reading of the resolution. The details have been described. Any questions or comments?
It says phase 1, so is there, I'm assuming, multiple phases of this project?
Correct.
And can you, I guess, explain the purpose of the phases? It's localized to the parts of the building, is that correct? My understanding is correct. Is that correct? I guess Mr. Ryan is coming up here to potentially answer that question.
The process to do this is significant. The building is large. It would not be possible to do the entire project when students are not occupying the building. So in order to do it with the least amount of disruption, we're phasing it. So the first phase will be done this summer. Basically do work on the sort of front end fire panel, do as much as we can with wire pulls and things like that. Get it so it's functional to work with the rest of the existing system, then come back next year and replace the rest of the components. So there's a cost component, and that's a large cost, but the bigger issue is being able to complete the project so that we're not doing fire watch. So if we don't have an operating system, we have to be in fire watch, which literally means somebody's got to walk around the building all the time and make sure it's not on fire. So.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other questions? Hearing none, that ends the discussion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I now have a recommendation to approve the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month proclamation.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will go ahead and read this resolution. Whereas the national theme for the 2026 Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is "We Are Here, Then, Now, Always," a campaign that recognizes the simple truth that people with developmental disabilities have always been a vital part of our community fabric and always will be. Whereas the Marysville Exempted Village School District serves a diverse population of over 5,700 students, including more than 1,200 students with individualized education programs, each bringing unique strengths and perspectives to our schools. Whereas our district's strategic direction honors the heart of our work, students, by fostering a culture of academic excellence, social emotional development, and systematic support where every learner is known and valued. Whereas we affirm the legal and moral right of every student to receive a robust education in a safe, welcoming environment where inclusion is the standard and the general education classroom is the first consideration of every child. And whereas we recognize our dedicated staff, including intervention specialists, general education teachers, paraprofessionals, counselors, nurses, related service providers, bus drivers, specialists, and principals, whose steady presence, kindness, and expertise provide the essential support students need to reach their full potential. And whereas we value our vital partnership with the Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities, whose commitment to supporting individuals of all ages ensures that the foundation of inclusion built within our schools continues as a lifelong journey of opportunity. And whereas we acknowledge the then of exclusion and celebrate the now of academic and social growth within our halls and pledge our commitment to the always, a future where inclusive education is not viewed as a program, but as the first step toward a lifetime of true community belonging. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Marysville Exempted Village School District Board of Education does hereby proclaim March 20, 2026 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Be it further resolved that we honor the daily work of our educators, the resilience of our students, and call upon our staff, students, and community to continue building a district where we keep learning, engaging, and ensuring that everyone belongs every day of the year. Any discussion?
I'm very glad that we're recognizing this group of people, not only the educators, but the students and their families, and I'm excited for this recognition for them.
Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next, we have the Treasurer CFO action items. We have a recommendation to approve all treasurer items. Sorry.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, the usual items. The only thing I would point out is that we did receive approximately $30,000 school bus safety grant. So that's going to be used for basically lighting signs on school buses to ensure that traffic is stopping when they're supposed to stop, when students are getting on and off of the bus. Again, that's the only thing I'm going to point out, but if there's any questions, happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by board members? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Treasurer items are approved. Next, we have a recommendation to approve all superintendent action items.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Dr. Howard?
Yes, thank you, Board. Tonight I'll ask you to approve the standard HR items that are provided. I always like to shout out our volunteers. Again, this month, I continue to be amazed. We have 26 additional volunteers he's set to be approved. We have 2 individuals listed for early graduates from Marysville High School. The athletic handbook has been updated. It's a set for approval. And then I'll note that there are 2 overnight trips listed as well. But happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions by board members? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes. Superintendent action items are approved. Next is comments and questions from board members. I'll start with Ms. Aaron.
No, thank you so much. I think the presentations that we had this evening were great, both going through the plans and kind of the costs that we have and the capital improvements that will be ahead of us as we talk through that. Also, again, I'll just reiterate, the approach that we're taking and the district is taking to the application of AI, incredibly important. It's incredibly important that we are diligent about this, but as long as we are using it for the stated outcome purpose and creating more capacity for our educators and our students to have those more impactful conversations and critical thinking, we are on the right path. So I look forward to seeing those future kind of proposals as we're going forward.
Thank you. Ms. Leon.
I don't have anything tonight.
Matt?
Just kind of piggyback what Aaron said. It's nice to see we're thinking about the future with facilities, with AI integration, accompanied with what we do every single day with the day-to-day operations.
I'll just end with spring break is around the corner. So for the families that are taking some trips or just taking some time to relax, staff, enjoy the break. And that concludes my comment. Now I have a recommendation to adjourn this meeting at 8:18 p.m.
All motion.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.